Well, welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the wonderful conversations in those three breakout sessions. Really tremendous discussions and great interaction from you all as well. So now it is my very great pleasure to introduce the moderator of our next plenary panel. I have known Elizabeth for many years. In fact, I believe we met in Paris, which was pretty cool. And I've always been a big fan. We've had the pleasure of working with her on our Good Digital Parenting project this year. And she always brings great enthusiasm and energy to any project she undertakes. She also has the best t-shirts and is a superhero as far as I'm concerned. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Elizabeth Milovidov.
Oh, that's so sweet. So funny. And hello, no t-shirt. It's first time, but I still have superhero bracelets, so it's good. Thank you so much for that introduction, Stephen. We are going to have a lot of fun with this panel because, in my opinion, we're talking about something that is so important to all parents and caregivers and families, and that is making the gaming world safer. And so we have brought together really a core panel of people to give different insights and expertise into all of the things that can really support our digital families at home. So I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to introduce them to you. I'm going to ask everybody to introduce themselves, actually, 1 to 2 minutes, right? And then I'm going to get in and ask you some questions. And of course, if you start going on and on and on, I'm going to gently, gently smile and pull you back in. So let's go. Let's get this conversation started. And in no particular order, I'm just going to introduce who I see on my screen. I'm going to start with you, Savannah. Go ahead.
Hi.
Tell everybody who you are.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Savannah, she, her. I am the policy director here at Discord. For folks who don't know, Discord is a text, chat, messaging, and audio app that allows you and your teens to be able to use, have conversations while they're gaming, as well as doing other things like studying for school, hanging out with friends, etc. In terms of the policy work, I hold content policy, our product policy, so ensuring that all of our products are safe, and then lastly, public policy. So really excited to talk about what Discord has planned, especially as it relates to teen belonging.
Thank you so much, Savannah. And I know already that parents are sitting there saying, ding, ding, what? Doing homework on Discord? That's what my child was telling me they were doing. So this is going to be great. So next up, I have Linda. Linda, come on down and introduce yourself.
Awesome. My name is Linda Norman. I'm the lead lawyer for Xbox gaming business at Microsoft. Today is an auspicious day. It's November 15th, and 20 years ago, Xbox launched its first console.
Ooh.
So happy anniversary, Xbox.
Yeah.
And in 2005, we launched the Xbox 360, and that was the first online console, and it had family safety settings even then. So keeping people and particularly children safe online and having great welcoming gaming experiences is just core to what makes Xbox great. So really happy to be here and talk about a really important subject.
Well, fantastic. Thank you. Have to admit, I was kind of waiting for you to say, and you get an Xbox, and you get an Xbox, just because it's the anniversary, but that's okay. That's okay.
You actually get access to Halo Infinite. Beta went live today for everybody.
There we go. I knew there was a treat. I knew it. So thank you so much, Linda. So I'm going to go over to you now, Stan.
Hi, everyone. I'm Stan Pierre-Louis. I'm the president and CEO of the Entertainment Software Association. We serve as the voice and advocate for the U.S. video game industry. Our members include leading console makers like Xbox, Sony PlayStation, and Nintendo, as well as leading publishers like Activision and Electronic Arts, Ubisoft, Warner Brothers, and the like. I'm really excited to be here to talk about the work that we do, as well as the work done by Esrb, and really excited about this panel and these panelists in particular.
Yay. Okay. So last but not least, from one UC person to another, over to UC Irvine with Katie.
All right, thanks, Elizabeth. So my name is Salen Tekinbas. I am a professor in the Department of Informatics at UC Irvine, as well as a co-founder of an organization called Connected Camps. And my work is really research-focused and design-focused, centering on the design of online environments for young people. So I spend a lot of time the past 20 years hanging out with young people online, in games, trying to understand what are their experiences, how do we help parents understand why these spaces are valuable for them, where are they having challenges, how do we begin to think about designing the full ecosystem to kind of better support young people. So I'll pass it back to you, Elizabeth.
Perfect. Thank you. You've already said 2 words, actually 3 words that got me all excited. One was connected camps, which my boys have done. And the third word, because there was 2 there, the third word was ecosystem. So thank you so much for lining me up for my first question, which is going to go to Stan. And, Stan, please, with all of your experience and background in this area, would you just help us set the scene by explaining what the gaming ecosystem, how does it work? What's the role of ESA, and how do they differ from Esrb? I'm going to hand it over to you. And again, Stan, I'm looking at you. I'm watching the time, okay?
You've been very clear, and so I'm going to do my best to stay in line. We're really excited about what we do, but also what Esrb does. So the ESA and the Esrb were both founded in 1994. The ESA itself works as an advocate for industry, doing things like protecting freedom of expression, intellectual property rights, and that work has only expanded in the years that have come, given the growth of our industry. But really, when the companies came together in 1994, they were most focused on creating the ESRB, which is the Entertainment Software Rating Board. And that's the group that really provides consumers, especially parents and caregivers, with information about games and video game playing systems, really trying to provide them with things like the content rating system and more resources that parents and consumers can use to understand what's in the game before they buy it. They've been so successful at this content rating system that the US Federal Trade Commission has looked to the video game industry system through Esrb as having the strongest self-regulatory code among the major media industries because of its high compliance with that code. A big part of that is that the Esrb has a very successful enforcement program for advertising. They also have a national retail council that allows for reviewing the kinds of things that are happening, like stopping the sale of M-rated games to kids. So more and more, we're seeing that compliance has a huge impact on how consumers behave and how retailers behave. And so through that self-regulation, it's been recognized as one of the top sources. But what's most important isn't what we say or what even the FTC says, it's how are consumers responding to the tools and information that we provide. And what we have found is that the ESRB rated materials have enormous impact on families and their decision-making process for games. In fact, 82% of parents say that they use parental controls in some way, shape, or form on a device when the kids are playing. And all that information is available either on esrb.com, but also parentaltools.org. And I should say esrb.org or parentaltools.org, that those are available. During COVID, I thought it was interesting, more than 20 million visits have occurred on the ESRB website since March 2020. So it just shows the incredible appetite people have for getting information. And that's rating information, that's parentaltools.org. That's also getting like family discussion guides and things related to games and the ecosystems themselves. The other thing, can I just add one thing, which is this past September.
You can.
All right. This past September, Esrb actually launched an upgraded portal that included a Spanish language site so that Spanish-speaking families have access to the rating and video game information. So it's just another enhancement that continues to happen in our industry.
Fantastic. And I am going to ask you to add just an eensy bit more. And I know that you will do this for me, even though I kind of cut you off. How do age ratings work?
Well, it's great. Well, in terms of the process, games, as they're getting ready for sale and distribution, before that happens, they get sent over to the ESRB to do a review. And they examine the materials themselves to ensure that they meet a certain standard, and they come up with that rating. And it's their role really exclusively to come up with what they view as the rating. And they have a series of categories, E for everyone, E 10 plus, all the way up to mature and adult only. And what they really try to do is focus in on how is this going to impact the consumer so that they have the relevant information. So it really is a very specific process around looking at the content, engaging with it, asking questions if needed, and coming up with that independent judgment.
Perfect. Thank you. So now that we've understood how our age ratings work, and we're sitting here and we're going to start grabbing these games that are age appropriate, I'm going to head over to you now, Linda, and ask you, we've got a huge source. We found the right one. It's perfect for our child. How can parents view gaming as something that is fun and safe?
Thanks, Elizabeth. Well, as we've seen from the pandemic, gaming has really been an instrumental part of bringing people together and an outlet for players of all ages. In fact, I think about gaming during the pandemic as one thing that you could do socially that was exactly the way you did it before the pandemic. And we certainly saw a lot of people enjoying games. As a parent, education, communication, and using the technology and the tools that we make available. We've really focused at Microsoft on getting more educational materials, but thinking about them from the lens of the user. Materials designed for children, materials designed for parents so that they can have rich conversations with children, because parents need to be talking to their children about what they're doing, understanding what it means to be online, and then using the tools that we have to help keep their children safe. We have really a rich set of parental controls. I mentioned we first launched them in 2005. We've continued to update them, but we need to make them readily available to parents, and then we need to make it easy for them to use. What we've done is we've put controls on the browser if you're a PC user. If you don't know how to use the console, no worries. We have a mobile app. So really leaning into all the things that are available to parents and taking advantage of the technology is key. And parental controls are so rich today. You can limit your gameplay to a single game. You can control all purchase options. You can control whoever your children talk to and play with online, or you can prevent them from doing that at all. You can set the level of kind of content that you want to see on Xbox. You can say only E-rated games if that's what you're comfortable with. And you can get weekly reports monitoring your child's gameplay and making sure. In fact, you can even cut off their gameplay from the mobile app or the parental controls. And you can use it as an incentive. You can set rewards, you can set additional screen time. All those things are available. We just want people to lean in and use them, and we have to do the best job to make that possible. But gaming, it can be such a great part of a healthy lifestyle. Obviously, too much of anything is too much. We want to make sure that doesn't happen. But we've seen the evidence that, women, young girls who game are far more likely, 3 to 5 times more likely to go into STEM. Games are actually teaching people skills that they need to be successful in the modern world. So, but keeping players safe, and particularly the most vulnerable players safe, is just priority number one.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to stop you there just because I can tell you are getting warmed up and there's so many fabulous things in there. No, there's incentives and they're talking about STEM, and I mean, they're really the vulnerable users and keeping them safe. So thank you so much, Linda. And I'm also going to head over because I believe I have some a poll that was done earlier and some poll results. So hang on, Savannah and Katie, I have not forgotten you, I promise. So the poll question came up was, which factor is most important in determining what games we played in your household? And so the choice was age ratings, platform and safety features, type of game content, and recommendations from other parents. Believe it or not, the number one factor was type of game and content. I personally was expecting platform and safety features, but that was type of game and content was number one. Number two was age ratings. Number three was recommendations from other parents. And last but not least was platform and safety features. So that's really interesting. It's kind of the flip, don't you think? But anyway, so with that in mind, I am going to continue on this this journey. So we've understood ratings. We have figured out parental controls for the most part. We have incited young women to go into science, technology, engineering, and math. And now we are playing. We are online. We're gaming. This is kind of like parents of yesterday when they just figured out how to work out the VCR and program it, and up came something else, right? So we've just figured this all out, and streaming. Our kids are now streaming online, whether it's on Discord or Twitch or YouTube, and they're having these conversations, and parents are not quite sure what's happening and who they're talking to. So Savannah, you know I'm coming to you. Would you please explain to us what is Discord and what can parents do?
Yeah. So again, Discord is a text, voice, video app. Basically, you can multitask while playing games. Discord's the place where you go to build a community. So a lot of your kids' favorite streamers have a Discord where they have different channels that they can have different conversations, share memes, talk about new video games, talk about, let's say, current events, whatever it might be. And so they use that to have discussions. You can stream, and often streamers will stream their live video content or video game content on Discord. But really, Discord's meant to be that community place. So when you're thinking about your kids all playing in different households, they're usually talking over Discord. And so I think that the power of a community building app like Discord is the fact that folks are able to have that social interaction, which is just so important. And they're able to build and control their own experience. So similar to, you know, what Linda was saying around safety features, Discord has the same, and a lot of other apps do as well. I think that what makes it a little bit different is this idea of having those conversations, playing games, and creating norms together. Discord is a community moderation app. And so your teens can create their own communities. They can moderate it themselves. They can learn what it means to create healthy and inclusive norms within that community, vast majority of which are under 10 people and just a bunch of friends hanging out. And I think that there's a lot that can be said where parents can join in. I don't think that the app is just for teens or Gen Z. I think that parents should really consider joining and seeing what kind of like-minded communities your teens are looking at. And then when it comes to video games, there's pretty much a server or a community for any type of video game, Minecraft being amongst the most fun. And I would invite you to ask your teens what video games they're playing and which servers they're in, and maybe join some yourself, because it's quite a bit of fun.
Okay, Savannah, you're taking my spiel, okay? Because that's what I always tell parents, is to always go and play, to have those conversations, but that's okay, because I think you're spot on. That's really what it's about. But something that was really interesting that you mentioned was about moderation and the fact that kids themselves can be moderators. Can you just talk a tiny bit about content moderation, whether it's the kids or the adults? That way parents can take a deep breath and know that there's some control going on.
Yeah, so within a community, you can set up the server to have different roles. And those roles have responsibilities that could be really great for your teen. And some of that includes moderating the content. So let's say you have a rule that you can't talk about, let's say, one video game versus Minecraft. Only the Minecraft server could be about Minecraft. You then have the teens that are able to go in and remove content that is not relevant. Or let's say someone is hurting someone else, saying something that is inappropriate. They have the power to set the norms themselves and say, hey, this is not appropriate. We're going to be taking this down, or we're going to temporarily have you sort of take a timeout. And so we have a lot of teen moderators that control their communities, and a teen moderator program, as well as a Discord moderator academy. So folks can learn the best practices around how to be a moderator. And so I think it's a really interesting way of building out a community and figuring out norms yourself versus having just Discord do it. But we're always there if they need us.
Great. And I'm going to cut you off there because you just teed me up nicely for my next question, because you basically said that they can get some of these best practices in learning on how to become a moderator. So now I'm going to turn to Katie about some best practices just for raising a responsible gamer in general. How can parents create the safest environment?
Yeah, so I think I'm going to answer that question by maybe broadening it a little bit.
Please do.
So I think that there's a lot of burden placed on parents to be the kind of gatekeeper that's kind of controlling and curating their kids' environments. And the truth is, I used the word ecology before, is that gaming occurs. Kids game, they stream, they talk about games at school, on the playground. And we need to begin to think about what are all of the stakeholders that might be involved in sort of helping what we might call raise a good gamer. Parents and caregivers are one, but there are other kinds of guardians or kind of good guardians. We might think about educators, the local pastor, definitely the community. So big shout out to Discord. You know, we've been doing a lot of research around the role of moderators. Like, how do you think about a community doing kind of caring and safekeeping for the community versus thinking about the technology having to do that? So it is a combination of kind of technical things as well as social things. So I just want to talk a little bit about the poll. So I'm actually not surprised that interest was the #1 reason people pick games, because gaming is an interest-driven activity. And when you think about why young people game, it's because they're interested in it. And if they're not going to choose a game that they don't want to play. So if you think about, well, how do you raise a good gamer? The first thing is you want to connect with your child around their interest. Okay, so several folks have said this before, having conversations with your child. The most important thing is you have to build trust. Okay, so we have to move the conversation away from being the cop in the house, surveilling and controlling what kids can do, to looking at the quality of what they're doing. So the conversation should really be about, well, how is this particular game or this particular stream helping you, my child, meet their learning goals, their social goals, help them develop kind of healthy peer relationships? And those kinds of conversations build trust, because the grown-up in the room is validating that kid's interest as a gamer. In the past, gaming is often seen as the thing the kid has to do in the corner, right, when their parents are not looking. And we have to sort of move gaming in the house out of the shadow of like, I'm in jail if I game, or my parents are gonna shut off the internet, to like, let's talk about what you're doing and why you're doing it, and how can we as caregivers in the home kind of support that. So that's one thing. The second thing, quickly, because I know I'm going to run out of time, is we do have to talk about equity. So the research does show that kids from lower income homes are the most likely to not have their gaming experiences kind of customized and tailored by adults, because the parents are often out of the home. So those young people are turning to siblings or turning to cousins or turning to streamers as the role models. And so Linda, I loved what you said about some of the Xbox's parental controls being written for kids. So we really have to think about who is the user of the controls. It may not be a parent. So we have to think about kids who don't have parents or guardians in the home that may be turning to other kinds of role models. How do we begin to build the kind of norms around what kind of positive gaming looks like there, so that that kind of education and that encouragement of interest is happening in really positive ways versus kind of replicating toxic norms, which we see happening a lot. So yeah.
Okay, good. So I'm just going to say one thing. It's interesting, your take on the question, because for me, it's which factor is most important in determining what games will be played in your household. So I'm looking at it from the parent's perspective of what they're going to be buying for their children. And I was thinking that they're going to say safety features, and perhaps that's not how they understood the question. Don't know. Linda's nodding her head too, saying, But it's very interesting. But before we head into some more questions and things that are coming in from the audience members, I just want to remind everybody who's listening to just kind of put out the shout out to #FOSI 2021, just to make sure that we all get to hear and see, how you're feeling about this. If you have any additional questions for Savannah, for Linda, for Katie, for Stan, or for myself, to just put them out there, we will find a way to respond to you. So I'm going to head over now and look at some of the questions. And actually one of them kind of ties in with what you were just saying, Katie, about the research and the research that you've seen. So I'm going to put this question out to everyone, but I'm going to kind of start with Katie and just talking about, the importance of research and seeing, kind of flipping the narrative on what we're thinking about games. And I think something that's really important as well is this narrative about online video games, violence, and now we're seeing a flip towards more positive mental health. So Katie, if you have anything on that, it would be lovely to hear from you. If not, anybody else who's nodding emphatically, you can chime in as well. Go ahead, Katie.
Yeah, I could just get us started. So Linda, you mentioned this. So the pandemic, as terrible as things were, it was a golden moment for gaming. Because what we saw is that, to Linda's point, that you could game in the way you always could, but we also saw that young people who were gamers were particularly successful during the pandemic because they understood how to seek out and connect, build status and reputation, seek out resources, get help. They know how to do that. They're very literate in this idea of being able to do that in an online digital world. So I think the conversation is definitely moving away from that games are really bad for you to, well, there actually can be quite good under certain types of conditions. Okay. One thing we did notice is that, oh gosh, what was I just going to say?
So many good thoughts. They're all coming around.
I know.
That's okay.
I'll hold it. It'll come back.
Yes, they always do. Yeah. So I'm going to flip over for a second. Another question is just that somebody else was listening earlier and hearing about the metaverse and talking about, if we put on our gaming glasses here and we're talking about the future, we're talking about the metaverse, the future, digital, everything. What do you think digital games of the future are going to look like? And again, this is a question for anyone who is enthusiastic and wants to rate. Oh, Linda, I see you smiling. I see you smile, and I'm gonna say go for it. And then Savannah, you've got a smile coming up too, so I can see it. Go ahead, Linda. What do you have?
I just get really excited by this question. The future of gaming is clearly in the cloud, and that's going to make games different in two fundamental ways. One, it's going to make them ubiquitous and available in a way that's more democratic, in the sense that if you just have a subscription and a connected device, you're going to be able to game. Second, the cloud is going to give you access to so much more information and richer information that you could actually create a custom experience for each user. I mean, even take a game like Flight Simulator. That game uses cloud technology. Everything you see in that game is being rendered more or less in real time using real world data. The weather is the weather, the time is the time, the cities are the cities. So if you look at and think about that as a truly immersive experience, and it's just going to get even more immersive. And the other trend you're going to see is the development of really a new digital economy through the metaverse, and the idea of people who are playing games actually being creators of content and actually being able to sell and monetize their content. So the future is incredible. This topic is so timely because we have a lot of work to make sure that it's also a safe and welcoming place.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you, Linda. And I'm going to go over to you, Savannah, because like I said, I could see you smiling as well. Yeah. Another question that made you all giggly. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, also to the first one around the research, I think for Discord, we want to be a place where people could find belonging. And they do it through finding like-minded individuals and interests. And so video gaming is a place where people can find out parts of their identity. And I think that when you think about the metaverse, there are different ways that people could show up, explore different parts of their identities through different communities, as well as I do think video gaming will be ubiquitous, and the ability to be able to have those group conversations and sort of multitasking and create community together will be really, really big. So I see this already happening. It'll be a little bit more organized and a little bit more equitable as time goes on. But I view gaming as it's a way for folks to find other people like them. And I think when it comes to socializing and, finding your identity, that could be really, really important and not something we should shy away from.
Okay, thank you.
Can I get off of something that both Linda and Savannah said, which is that they both talked about the ubiquity of games. They talked about being able to be more customized, and they also touched on equity. And I think that one of the things that will make video gaming really explode is having more entrants, having more people making games that reflect their experiences. When Savannah was talking about building that community and finding people who have similar interests, it's an opportunity to create games from different perspectives. And I think because the tools for making games have really started to explode, and there are lots of different ways to make games, you don't have to be at one specific place. It allows different voices to start championing different causes, coming up with different themes, just having, showing different kinds of fun that they may be having that the rest of the world hasn't seen. And that's been one of the great things about games. They're global in nature. So a game made in Sweden will impact you just as much as a game made in Indiana, right? And it's important to have different people thinking about how they can contribute to this art form.
Yeah, no, I think that is just really brilliant in that even for myself as a mommy gamer, I have to admit it's so much fun to pick skins that look like me, that are brown or that are female. And I think the fact that the game has changed and the gaming experience changes to reflect so many of our personalities and identities, I do think it helps all of the children expand as well. Katie, I'm going to still wait for you. You just give me a signal if it comes back to you, because I don't want to forget you. I'm going to head over to a question that we just received from Jack Ludostansky, Guardian Gamer. And the question is, how should we educate parents properly about games other than just the ESRB rating systems? Parents can't protect their kids from things that they do not know. So what do we think? My first thing here is those conversations, right? That's the best way that they can protect is by having those conversations with them to understand what they're doing. Even if they don't understand that Call of Duty is 18 plus, they can still understand what's happening inside. But what do you think? What have you seen at Microsoft or Discord or ESA or in Connected Camps? Anyone?
Well, I can jump in. So I'll go back a little bit to what Savannah was talking about with community moderators. So I do think we need to start to think about the community as a layer of learning, as a learning space for young people. So even this conversation about, well, what's the code of conduct in this community? What are the expectations in this community? And the research in HCI, which is human computer interaction, shows that when the expectations are clear, a person new to that community is more likely to join, and they are more likely to have a positive experience. So that's one, is thinking about the kind of role that the community that young people are in. The second is that young people actually know a lot. And I think we have to move a little bit away from this mindset of sort of kids as empty vessels, particularly by the time they become 10, 11, a tween, moving into a teen. They have enormous knowledge that we need to be able to tap into and help understand, like, what are their experiences and how can they actually educate parents about what is valuable to them about these spaces. So I think it always comes down to conversations, but again, expanding the pool of people that a young person might be talking to and learning from. As well as parents. If my child sets up a Discord server, I can look at what's the code of conduct. How are they writing that code of conduct? Oh, let's do an activity together where we develop the code of conduct together for our neighborhood server. So getting involved in these kinds of activities that are about community norms, about behavior, about kind of consequences, like how does a community think about that? Those are all wonderful opportunities to help parents understand, but also give kids agency in those spaces.
Great, thank you. What I'm loving what you're saying about expectations and consequences. These are terms that parents already use and know. So for all of those parents who say, "Oh, but I don't understand the tech and the gaming," it's the same thing when they take their child or their teen to a party or to the mall. They have expectations, and then there can be consequences. So thank you for just putting it in terms that we can use IRL as well. Savannah, did you have anything? Because I saw a smile.
I am just completely agree with Katie. I think that for us, Discord is often, we learn from the teens that are using Discord. They find new and innovative ways to create community and to talk about community justice and restorative justice and create empathy amongst each other. And so I really do believe having those conversations where you view your child as the expert of their lived experience and have that conversation around what are house rules, digital house rules, what are you doing? Show me a tour of your favorite communities, and why are you attracted to these types of games versus others? You can learn a lot more, not just about what the games are, but about your child. And so I really agree that if you were to meet them where they're at, it goes a long way. And we have guides if any of you all are interested at discord.com/safety for how to have those conversations, but it's really not that hard.
It's true, but they also have to know. And I think that's something that's really important. I think that all of us have mentioned is just, how do we get these resources and this information to parents? So again, I mean, Savannah, you kicked us off on that. How do we meet families where they are? Linda, I believe that you also had mentioned, having great resources. What do you think, what can Xbox do to get this to parents?
It's having resources that are really directed to the audience, as I mentioned before. So having resources that are geared towards children, that are geared towards parents and all gamers, but it's also making it available in multiple ways. And for sure, during the sign-up experience, when you create that account, pointing to those materials so that people, when they're onboarding to the console and when parents are getting permission for young people to be on the console, that right from that experience that they get access to that information. So making it available in multiple formats and making it available at multiple times is just key. And computer camps, education in schools. Minecraft education is in schools today. Combining that with online safety and knowing that parents are involved in that process is just another way to educate children. And parents just need to pick up a controller or pick up a mouse and keyboard and play.
Thank you. Actually, Stan, this just brings me back to something that you had mentioned earlier. And I can't recall exactly which platform you said where you had millions of downloads, where people were receiving the parents were receiving the resources. Was it the parentaltools.org?
Actually, it was on esrb.org. More than 20 million people accessed that site since March 2020 during the pandemic.
Okay, so share the success of what we can do, because that's great.
Sure. Well, one of the things, if you go to parentaltools.org, it will have step-by-step instructions on various devices of how to actually put the tools into place. And Linda mentioned so many of them, limiting the kinds of games, the amount of time, the spend, all those things are available. But we also learned from Katie that, things can be overwhelming for parents. And so it is trying to meet the parent, meeting the caregiver, meeting the consumer where they are. And that means having different modes. And so whether you're coming to one website or another proprietary system, it's all about taking the time to understand how they work and then seeing what's acceptable to you and creating a dialogue, right? We talk about playing the game with kids, but also having the conversation. Having a 15-year-old, I get these conversations where I make one assumption, then he reminds me of where he is in his growth, and I have to get schooled really quickly to say, all right, okay, fine. But then there are certain things where, like every purchase that gets made on a device, I get prompted and I've got to approve it, and that's going to be that. But it's understanding how these things work and taking that extra minute to really understand how it impacts relationship and how it teaches responsibility, because ultimately what you're trying to do, both as a company with products, as a parent, as anything you're doing, is to really create opportunities for people to learn and really have fun on their own with it.
Okay, so I have like 1,000 more questions just myself, wanting to talk about regulation online, wanting to talk about bad actors and other parental controls and safety features, but I don't have enough time. So with my little bit that's left, I'm going to ask each one of you if you would please give us one takeaway from the conversation about safety in gaming that you want every parent to hear. And attention, you can't repeat what someone said before you. Okay, yeah, I just changed the rules. And I'm going to start by talking about those connected conversations. Okay, so everybody else has to pick something else. So That was it for Connected Conversations. Who would like to go first? Go ahead, Katie. Thank you.
Yes, I was just
Challenge
going to,
accepted.
yeah, I was just going to build on what Stan said. So I think the really important thing to remember is that your kids' needs and interests change over time. So a certain set of controls that you create when your child is 6, let's say the first time you get an Xbox in the house, even a year and a half later, that child is developmentally in a different place. So you have to think about, you have to recognize that your child is an organic human being, again, whose needs and interests are changing over time. And that's why the listening and the conversations are so important, because you have to modify what you're doing as you would in any other aspect of parenting. It's not like, I set the parental controls, I'm now great for the next 10 years. Absolutely
I wish
not.
that would be
Right.
great.
Right. So it's a challenge, and it's why it really is, it's challenging, I think, is what parents are finding, because it's a constant thing you have to pay attention to.
Okay, so I'm going to stop you there and look to my next volunteer, like the teachers in the classroom, the volunteer who will then call on Linda.
It was hand raising. I like this.
I know, not even the emoji. Play games with your kids.
Okay.
Learn so much by doing.
Oh, I love it. Okay. And then Savannah, what about you?
Yeah, I can't say what someone else said. Know that the platforms
Of course you can. Stephen will never let me come back to moderate FOSI if he's knowing I'm giving you draconian rules.
Yeah,
of course you can repeat whatever you want.
Yeah, platforms are obviously here to help protect your child. So please feel free to report. But again, I say stay curious. Get a tour from your kid around what they're doing, and learn from them.
Oh, and see, we've got still enough time for me to say, you mentioned this reporting. How can they report? Because I don't think parents know enough about that, nor do they realize that by reporting, by teaching their children how to report, they're creating a safe environment, and it's anonymous. So where can they report on Discord?
Great question. So when you're looking at a message that you would like to report on Discord, there will be 3 little dots just to the right as you hover. Click on that, and then you can report a message. And you can tell us what exactly you're reporting it for. Is it harassment? Is it cheating? Is it bullying? Let us know. You could also report discord.com should you want to give more details about it.
Okay, thank you. Stan, are you ready to just bring us in?
We're going to land the plane. And I think I'm going to feed off of various things people said throughout, which is essentially to really try to learn the various systems in place. I highlighted Esrb.org and parentaltools.org because they've got step-by-step instructions, and they are a vetted and really well-respected resource. There are other devices and platforms that have rules, and I think it's important to take the time to learn how they work. And I think learning it early on is the best, meaning when you're signing up for the first time, as Linda mentioned, take the time to understand how the controls work and what all the parameters are, because it's harder to go back, right? Once you start the system and you move on, it's harder to go back. But if you take that time early on, you really learn a lot about that system, and you create a set of rules that can be dynamic over time as your child or the person for whom you provide care gets along in the growth changes. But I think it's taking that time early on, setting that tone, and really sticking to it. And that actually saves you quite a bit of time throughout the process, because you've done a lot to create an ecosystem within your family or circumstance to enjoy games in a safe way.
Did you do that on purpose? Throw in ecosystem to end with what you began with? That was really clever. That was good. Thank you so much. That was just a brilliant wrap up. And, we have a few minutes left. I just want to go really quickly. 1-word answer, your favorite game. Katie, what's your favorite online game?
Well, at the moment, it's Minecraft.
Okay. Linda.
It's Halo launch day. It's got to be Halo.
Savannah.
Elder Scrolls Online.
Stan.
As the presidency of ESO, I love all the games.
Oh, I love it.
My son plays a lot of Super Smash Brothers Ultimate, so we play a lot of that together, but I love all of the games.
Oh my goodness. Okay, wait. And so I'm sorry, just as we keep on saying, it's the last little bit, there's questions coming in. See, we're just having too much fun, so everybody wants to talk to you. So I've got a question from Teodora Pavkovic, lead cyber safety and digital wellness expert at LineWise by Family Zone. I'd love to know what Katie, as a researcher, sees as some possible challenges to such immersive digital games of the future. You have like 3 words, Katie, for immersive digital games of the future.
Oh gosh, challenges.
Yep.
Well, I think the challenges are the same. I'm going to go back to equity. I think part of what we're hearing today is that there is still a lot a parent has to do to support a child. There's a lot of kids that don't have those parents that have the time and in the home. So I think the challenges in the future are, can there be intermediary organizations or groups that can take on some of this burden to helping to support young people around the kinds of learning and knowledge that they might need in those spaces, even pointing the young people to things like the Discord Academy, places where they can on their own learn and do those kinds of things. So that I think it's still the challenge today, and it will remain the challenge in the future around equity, I think.
Okay, and one more quick question, Katie, from Susan Kennedy from NECMEC, Prevention and Outreach. Just because you were mentioning equity, do you have any recommended reading on that research that you mentioned about the gaming experiences of kids from low income versus higher income households?
I do, but I'm going to have to email it to somebody. I don't have the citation right here, but but I can
Perfect.
Look it up.
So Susan, you stay in contact with us. And actually, I will put that out to everybody who is paying attention and listening, again, to share hashtag FOSI 2021. And that if you have any questions, to please send them to us, and also to go check out the good digital parenting platform. Let us know what you love, so that way we can create more of that content. And if you have any questions for the panelists, please send those in as well, because we will make sure to get them those questions so that they can answer further. That's it. I think we have 43 seconds left, so I think we can probably just do a nice little wave, and I think magically Stephen will pop back on. What do you think? Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. I really had fun.
Thanks, Elizabeth.
Thanks, Elizabeth.